Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we have who I like to call the voice of Ireland, the voice of Irish MMA, at least, Mr. Paul Browne. And it's certainly it's exciting to have you in here because before you even talk yet, I love hearing your voice. You have that voice for talking. You know what I mean? Like, it's a deep, kind of confident voice, and I love hearing it.
Yeah,
So,
it comes in useful, all right, in my line of work, to be loud and be able to make yourself heard.
absolutely. All right, so look, we'll jump right into this. I got just a few. These are straightforward questions. Just kind of, answer them. First thing comes off the top of your head. I'm gonna shuffle them up,
Let's do it.
and we'll get into it. All right, this is my favorite. Just because maybe I'll start with this one. Have a little running tally. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Coffee?
Yeah.
You ever drink tea?
Yeah, and I drink decaf tea.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm very sensitive to caffeine. So, I'll have coffee and I can't touch it after lunchtime. So if I even have, some cups of tea during the day, my sleep might get a little bit affected. So,
Really?
yeah. Decaf tea. I do like a cup of tea, but, I can't go to town on it. I'm a softie. So, yeah.
Right on. Aside from your commentating and your martial arts background, do you have any other kind of hidden talents?
Oh, I don't know. I'm kind of weird like that. I do lots of things. Music, yeah. I suppose music would
Yeah?
be. Yeah. I used
play,
to
or?
sing and play guitar, in bars
Oh, no
and
way.
shit, a long time ago in a former life. Yeah. That was my thing.
What do you sing? Do you have a go-to song or?
I liked some U2, Bob Marley, Bob
Okay.
Dylan, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I lived in Germany.
Did you?
What year are we now? Probably 20 something years ago. And my job was just playing in some bars in Germany and Austria. So
Where in Germany?
Munich, and then in Salzburg every second weekend as well. So
right
I
on.
used to just drink the night away and get paid to
Heck
stand
yeah.
on stage and entertain the revelers in the bar. So it was good fun. Yeah.
No way. That's cool. I used to live in Germany as well.
Oh, yeah.
I lived in Kaiserslautern.
Oh, cool spot. Yeah.
In Munich, I was in the military, but I know there's a army base down near Munich.
That's right. Yeah.
Did you come across a lot of Americans then, or?
Yeah, you get a lot of people traveling through, and definitely a lot of Americans,
Yeah.
Americans and Australians, particularly in Irish bars. They'll go there because it's a novelty anywhere in the world, and it's a place where you can really just get lit and have a good time. So, yeah, back when I don't even drink anymore, but Jesus, back then that was kind of mostly what I did. So it was a good combination, but you couldn't do it long term.
That's awesome. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so all right, here we go. What's something you're terrible at?
Football. I used to play football for years, but Jesus, I was never any good. No.
Yeah.
And then I transitioned to Jiu-Jitsu and MMA and stuff, and kind of found a home there.
What was it about football that you just found hard?
No, I liked it, but I wasn't very talented athletically. It was just I don't know. I enjoyed playing with I played with my friends that I grew up with, so
Okay.
I enjoyed the whole process. But yeah, I just didn't really have the gift, But certainly, I found a lot more success in the jiu-jitsu game,
Heck yeah. What is your favorite childhood memory?
Favorite childhood memory? Jesus, there's a lot.
Or even the first one?
Yeah, the first, right outside the house where I lived, we lived in a small council estate, and there was a football pitch right outside. So there was houses all the way down one side of the street, and then just this big green area with goalposts. And it was just, we congregated there every day, all day. And there was a gang of us. There was 5 of us, the same age, just boys, and we all grew up. At the time, the housing estate was pretty small. It was 30-something houses. But we were lucky in that the 5 of us grew up like brothers. It was really cool. So you just, the moment
cool.
you'd get home from school or on your summer holidays, you'd be the first man out. We'd be knocking around on all the doors, dragging everybody out, and you wouldn't come back in until you were forced back in to eat something. It was good times, yeah.
Yeah, no, I noticed that now because it was like that for myself growing up. It was like we were always outside and we were always going to our friend's house, knocking on the door. Can Jimmy come out and play? That kind of thing. Yeah. And I see it now with my kids. Well, my oldest, because she has her friends on the road here, and I like that. It's just
cool.
it brings me back, and I think about it, and I'm like, I like
man,
this
so
fun.
good, yeah, good times.
What would be your ideal vacation?
God, I'm not very good at sitting still. Like if I don't have something to do, I get really restless and I start looking for shit to do. I'm not good at just lying around. So I don't think it'd be something like lying on a beach. I got to travel to Brazil there in December to commentate for Brave, and it was like hang out here for a couple of days. There's a beach there, but you're also involved in the show, so you can go to the weigh-ins, and then you're going to the fights, and you know a bit of research to do, and you can hang around and meet some fighters. So that was kind of cool, you know.
Okay.
Something like that. Something like that. A little working holiday, but somewhere nice. Yeah, yeah. Good
That's
climate.
cool. No, yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I don't. My wife likes to sit on the beach, which I can do for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I need to be doing something, you know, and even it doesn't need to be anything productive, just anything really.
Yeah, I'm not good with just time to kill. I need something on my plate, you know,
Get
to
anxious.
keep me occupied. Yeah.
In the next year, what's one goal you have?
Ooh, that's a good one. I suppose just in the line of work I'm in is to basically take the next step, whatever that may be. It's difficult to kind of know what opportunities arise because in that line of work, there's not just shitloads of opportunities out there. Like when you go into commentating, there's not a load of, vacancies in that line of work. All of the promotions around the world, they all have their team or their guys. So it's like I fell into it just purely, it was the right circumstance. I was the right guy at the right time, the right place. So, and then with a few promotions there, because Noel O'Keefe was kind of stepping away. He was the guy who was doing my role originally. I was basically there to snap up, and he was there. He helped me. He was really good with it, and basically there to snap up some of that work. And then I did a decent job and got some other opportunities. But going forward and progressing into from the regional scene into the big leagues, a little harder to do. But you just got to prepare, put yourself in that position where if an opportunity did arise, you'd be ready. So yeah, something like that would be cool if it happened. But just keep working, just keep grafting.
Heck yeah. All right. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh, good question. Let's see. Shane McGowan. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah?
That'd be entertaining. Yeah.
What about him? Do you?
Oh man, he was just a genius, and so unique and so different. I'm always fascinated by people who do things so differently to the world around them. Like you can try and name another rock star in history that is remotely like Shane McGowan. It's just not. They're not out there. Whereas a lot of people tend to follow the same formula and have success that way. But then you get outliers like him. So I don't know. He just sprung to mind there. But people
That's a
like
good
that.
one. Heck yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it'd be just interesting to see what it's like to actually be in the company of someone like that.
100%. Just the kind of aura and like gravity that a person like that kind of just has around them. Like it comes. Michael Jackson comes to mind because I was listening to a podcast this morning and they were talking about him and saying like people don't understand like the effect he has on masses of people. And just to kind of be around someone who has that effect on people would be very interesting. It's
always interesting to observe people like that. People who just stand out. Like there's a lot of us on this planet, but there's not a lot of people that are kind of cutting their own path and being super successful like that. So yeah, it's always interesting just to get in the vicinity of those people and observe them.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember being around like Conor McGregor before he made it big time.
It's got to be an energy
and
too.
You could see like this was like when he was still fighting in Cage Warriors way back in the day. And I remember just being in the same rooms with him a few times and just observing and just going, there's something weirdly, I've never seen an energy like that out of somebody, or I've never seen that sort of charisma. And this guy is not famous. He was broke as fuck at the time, and it was like, okay, so yeah, you could see that he was very, very different to anything you'd ever seen in the game before. So yeah, there are people in all lines of work like that, and I'd like to, definitely Shane McGowan would fall into that category. They just stand out a mile,
Heck yeah. What's your EDC? What do you carry on you every day? What's something that's always on you?
Oh God, my phone. I think like everybody else, I suppose that's the easy answer because all our lives are in our phones now, aren't they?
Right on.
I'd say that's probably the number one. My phone and my wallet.
Are you Apple or iPhone?
I'm a Samsung. Yeah. So
or Apple or
Apple or
iPhone,
iPhone is the same
idiot.
thing.
Sorry,
I'm an Android.
Apple or Android is what I meant. Android, right on. Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
Android all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm too old to learn new tricks, so I think getting an iPhone would stress me out too much.
You know, I used to have an iPhone before the phone I have now, and I liked it. And then I switched because I couldn't get they wouldn't discount the phone on a new plan.
Okay,
so I made the switch, and it was so much better. I don't even know if it was better. It was just it was different, but like a nice different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I felt less. Apple likes to kind of like spoon feed people things, you know, and kind of coddle the user experience. And with Android, it's not like that.
Right.
You very much kind of have to figure it out. But then again, maybe that's why a lot of people like Apple.
Yeah.
Who knows? If there was one skill you could learn, you know, kind of at the snap of a finger, what would it be?
That's interesting. I don't know. I kind of try my hand at anything I want to try my hand at. I'm very much like I see someone doing something cool and I'm like, oh, I could do that. Yeah. And then I just give it a go, you know, which is what this is what probably why I'm in the line of work I'm in at the moment. And, you know, it's, I don't think there's anything that I've looked at and thought, oh, I could do that and not tried. So I don't know. I don't think I'd have an answer, you know, just because of that.
Yeah.
I think I've sort of just thrown my hat in the ring and sort of I've done a lot of interest in sort of things like playing music and stuff, and it's just because I like to pull the trigger on things and see how they go, you know.
Right on. No one asked, but mine is languages. If I could just pick up a language right away,
that's a good shout. I'd like.
Yeah. That's like I've been studying Spanish for the better part of 15, almost 20 years now, and I still
struggling.
yeah. But yeah, that's what I would pick. Last book you read?
Last book I read. I've moved more toward audio books at the moment.
Or listen to, same thing.
Yeah, let me just check because it's actually been. I've gone podcast heavy.
Yeah.
Over the last while, so let me see what was the last one on my.
That even works too. What's your podcast? What's the last podcast you listened to, or the one that you listen to most of the time?
Oh, I was listening to the Ringer podcast this morning. PT Carroll.
Okay.
Shout out PT, my old pal. He does that with Ariel Helwani and Chuck Mindenhall, and when Ariel's not there, PT presents the show. So I was listening to that just this morning while moving around the house doing a few things. So I suppose that's the next best answer to save me scrambling through my Audible and see what was the last one I read.
You know, I read Steve-O. I read his book. I just happened to be in the library and they had it there, and I picked it up. And it was a good book, but it's like I couldn't finish it, partly because I feel like I have undiagnosed dyslexia, so it's difficult to read. But I would listen to like a lot of podcasts and stuff he'd be on, and not discounting the book, it's it's a lot of the same stories that are in and out of there. Yeah, but it was good. It was very interesting. A lot of detail on some of his life and the crazy shit he would get up to.
Yeah, the most recent one I've been reading actually now is you reminded me Carl Frampton's autobiography, The Boxer, from Belfast.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't completed it. I've been sort of reading it on planes, but I haven't been on a plane in a while, so there's about half of it I haven't actually read yet.
A friend of mine was talking to me about that as well. He was recommending giving it
it's decent so far. Yeah, it's mostly like the part where I've got up to. He's kind of just turned professional, but a lot of it is about his childhood growing up and like the religious divide in Belfast and stuff. And, the cultural divide within boxing and that. So it's it's been interesting, but I must get around to completing it because I don't think I've touched it in about 2 months. Because if I'm at home, I've just got so much fucking happening that there isn't time to sit still. So it's usually when I'm in an airport or on a long flight that I'll kind of read.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Usually in the middle of the night when I'm out here trying to avoid my video editing or whatever. That's when I read my books are over there, and the same way. I got so much going on.
Yeah.
But all right, look, let's get to the meat and potatoes, as they say. All right, so going back.
Okay.
Many years ago. What was it that kind of sparked your interest in, kind of martial arts? What brought you into it?
I was just contemplating this yesterday as it happens. So like I started training like MMA and Jiu-Jitsu. I think I was 31 kickboxing. Really? Yeah. So I was, people are always saying, I'm too old to start. And then they're like, 29. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense to me. Just fucking do it. But I started then. But I was always fascinated like by the whole thing. So when I remembered when I was growing up, you know, martial arts movies and stuff I was crazy about when I was a kid and things like that. And I actually did karate for a little bit, but like a very short period of time. I grew up in a small town and there was karate there for a little while, like a few months. I remember doing it and then it wasn't there anymore. And like there was, you know, you didn't have, this is like, I grew up in the 80s and the early 90s. So it was like, there wasn't really the options around that there are now. Do you know what I mean? But I was always into that and I kind of said, you know, followed the route that all my friends did of, you know, playing football and drinking at the weekends. But then I sort of stumbled into it when I think I was about 31. I started training. I was watching more and more of the UFC and things like that at the time. And yeah, an opportunity just popped up. I was training a guy. I was a strength and conditioning coach for like 20 something years. And I was training a guy for his professional debut. He was fighting on Battlezone, which was that was the promotion run by my coach Andy Ryan. I think it was around 2011. So he had his own club, and I started training there a little bit, doing a few classes. Next thing you know, I'm fighting in the ring, kickboxing fights, and then I'm doing jiu-jitsu, and then I'm up in Team Rhino doing jiu-jitsu and a bit of MMA, and then I haven't left. So yeah, I sort of just fell into it just because. As I said, sometimes I just see something that looks cool and I'm like, oh, I could do that. And then
Something shiny.
yeah, and then I just get stuck there. And yeah, I think that's...
What was it about it that kind of really, you know, drew you in? Because, you know, I'm someone I hobby hop. You know what I mean? You know, I go from, you know, I get fixated on one thing for, you know, a period of time and then I move on to something else. And for me, at least, like jiu-jitsu has been the one thing that I've done the longest. You know, and what is it about it that really kind of keeps you hooked?
Oh, I don't know. There's probably a deep lying psychological answer behind it as well. I mean, you grow up in a council estate and a broken home and all of that. Like there's, you grow up in your fair share of fights in an estate full of young boys as well. So there was a lot of that growing up. I was very small and skinny when I was growing up as well. So I do remember getting the shit beat out of me quite a few times. And yeah, there's probably a little bit of that, you know, behind it, you know, let's fucking learn how to fight, you know, and whatnot. But yeah, I think sporting wise, I love the competition aspect of sport, or always did, you know, like that's why I played soccer and Gaelic football for years.
Yeah.
The frustration of being part of a team and then, you know, not having full control over the outcome. I always, that really one thing that pissed me off. Whereas now when you compete, it's down to you, you know, if you have all your ducks in a row and you cross all the T's and dot all the I's, then you give yourself a good chance of winning. But sometimes you could do that when playing football and some other motherfucker would screw it up and then you'd just be so pissed off and frustrated. So I think that's a big thing. And nowadays it's like I don't compete really because just my life is just too chaotic for finding the time to dedicate to training to compete, because I think that you really have to dedicate yourself to putting the work in if you're going to compete, you know. So nowadays my focus, I still train week in, week out. I'm actually teaching a little bit of jiu-jitsu now tonight, but I just enjoy the process. I enjoy working and training alongside some of the guys who have fights and competitions coming up, and just being there to help out, having a place to go to decompress as well. I mean, throughout the years in your life, the longer you're training, you realize like your life is going through all of these different phases and stages, and then, you know, you've got one constant there, and it's your club where you can go to and get on the mats and just you know, that's just a constant throughout that whole process. So the evolution of seeing our team chop and change over the years has been spectacular. Some of the experiences. So I don't think I'd ever drift away from it, you know. I think I'm just stuck there now. So I'm part of the furniture.
Right on. Like, do you find like, do you find like, you know, kind of, hold on, say this, like, yourself when you started, do you see that and other people who are kind of coming in and, you know, being introduced to the sport?
Yeah. All the different phases you go through where you're just down there, you're getting absolutely rinsed by everybody. You're a newbie and you just don't know what you're doing. And then you get good, and then you get cocky because you get good. And then You know, you're competing all the time because you're hungry and you want to fucking win everything and smash everyone. I'm seeing all the different phases that I went through, and I'm seeing it in other people, you know. So it's funny, you know, it's interesting. And then, yeah, you just grow and mature as a martial artist over the years, the longer you're doing it. And it's a really, really interesting road, you know. And it's great it's great to see people get their just rewards, or just really fall in love with the game, whether that's MMA or jiu-jitsu or whatever, and really develop and become good. And then, you know, you see them making their competition debut or having their first fight, making their professional debut. Like Jamie Abbott-Bissett there made his pro debut at Cage Warriors in the opening bout the other week. Jamie and his sister Nadine, they came to the gym as kids.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm relatively light now, but when I was competing, I was even lighter than this. I would always make an effort to stay under 70 kilos. So like, you would be just primarily training with all the lighter people in the gym. So we would generally do a little bit of work with them as they were coming in and training, and they're just teenagers. But I remember cornering them in jiu-jitsu competitions, and now she's a pro MMA fighter. She's an amateur world champion. Jamie made his pro debut of the week. I got to walk out to the cage with him, and he smashed some really good Polish kid around in the cage and finished him. And it's just like, but it just gives you such a buzz seeing that, you know. It's you really, I was like a proud dad, you know. I went into the, like, when they're backstage at the Cage Warriors office, just for anyone watching, I work there, so I'm generally in there with the fighters anyway. But generally the fighters have to go into the backstage office an hour before the fight to collect their official Cage Warriors gloves. So I went down and I got Jamie's ones for him. And they were asking me in the office, like, why are you doing this? Why didn't you just send him down? And I said, like my fucking son, he's really nervous out there. I'm trying to just look after him here. And, you know, I was taking care of everything that needed to be taken care of. We just went out, me and Collie Mahan just stretched and folded out his gloves for about 20 minutes and then stuck them on his hands and just let him at it. And he went out and he kicked that poor Polish kid's ass. So, just a million stories like that where you see people just developing and getting better and putting in the work and getting the reward for it. And it's really cool to see, you know. So I think that keeps me happy. It keeps me smiling in the game these days, you know. Like 4 of my teammates won on that Cage Warriors show, and it was insane. It was really good, you know.
Heck yeah, no, it really, regardless of how prolific your gym is, you really, the people who are there all the time, you know, like it does become like a little family.
Oh yeah,
you know, and like it's weird. Like, I don't know if other sports are like this because I never played any other sports. In the limited experience I do have with it, it wasn't. But like, it really does, you know, the little, you know, really good friends. You get this this kind of sense of family with folks who, you know, aren't your family, you know, and I think a lot of people need that. And, you know, for me at least, that was something that kind of drew me in, and I think it's really kind of to help me stick it out.
Yeah, our team is definitely like that. We are very tight-knit. We're very close. In comparison to other sports, absolutely, it's a thing. And the reason that I don't know, it feels like there's a lot more of a bond there is like, these guys are going out to fight in front of like, you know, it's on UFC Fight Pass. There's a lot of people watching. There's a couple of thousand people there in the arena. What they're putting on the line is crazy, you know. So, like, if your friend loses a football match, you might be a bit like, shit, sorry, hard luck, mate. But when these guys are dedicating their whole lives to this art and this craft and this game, and then they're going in there, and for those 15 minutes, everything's on the line, and you know, they come out of there with their hand raised. It's unbelievable for them, and if they don't, you know, it's devastating for them. So I think it matters more. So it's definitely a thing that, sorry footballers, I'm offending you guys, but yeah, in comparison to a lot of sports.
Even with like football, like blame can be pushed around. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, you can have, you know, have your, you know, certain players who maybe performed really well, and then other players who maybe their performance hindered their great performance, you know, so like blame can be pushed around. Whereas like in MMA, it's on you. You know, those 15 minutes, it's up to you. The work's been done or it hasn't been. You know,
and it's that old cliche that everybody's around when you win, and when you lose, you're sitting in an empty room. You know, so we do stay tight and close knit in those circumstances. And ultimately, when these guys do lose fights, they have to go off and fix their own fucking heads, and then deal with that and resolve to come back. Some people just drift away from the game, but yeah, there's certainly, it does make us all fairly close and tight knit down there, and I really do enjoy, especially in our club, like we do have a great emphasis on the family aspect of it. We've a lot of like brothers and sisters who are training together, like cool. James Sheehan there just won the world title, and he's down there constantly with his two brothers training, and I'll give you an example. Jer Harris won the middle fight on the main card at Cage Warriors. So I'm, for the majority of the show, I'm sort of walking the fighters to the cage, and then I'm kind of hanging back in the crowd, and I'm watching the fights with my headset on, just if anyone needs me, and I'm watching the fights in the arena and whatnot. But for the ones on the main card, I basically walked them out to the cage, and I sat cage side, in my Cage Warriors t-shirt. So I'm trying not to be publicly celebrating too much. I found that impossible. But I was watching Jer's fight, and he won so dramatically. He was getting his ass whooped, basically, and he submitted the guy, and it was a massive moment, biggest fight of his life. So I'm walking around the cage to where they're bringing the fighters out of the cage. He has so many supporters in the crowd, is unreal. They're all coming over. His dad, his little brother who trains with us as well, was on his dad's shoulders, and he was crying tears of joy. And they were
saw pictures of that.
Yeah, they were coming up to the barrier to kind of catch a glimpse of Jer, because the medics are bringing the two fighters out of the cage. So his dad leans over and he goes, "Can you bring him into Jer?" And I said, "Look, I can't. I'll get fucking sacked. Like if I do something like that, I'm an employee. I'm in the cage that area." And then I look at his brother, and he was crying. He had tears in his eyes. And I was like, "Oh fuck it, here, give him to me." So I grabbed him. Like he's not a small child. Like he's but I grabbed him, and he wrapped his arms around me like a little baby. And I just ran through the crowd, just kicking people out of the way. I was screaming at Jer, "Hold up there, hold up there!" So we had to barge through the crowd. And I got his brother to him, and he walked into the backstage with us. He went for his medical with him, So he just wanted to be with his brother. So our team is like that. It's everybody has their family around. Like I bring my kids down there just to train a little bit of jiu-jitsu with me and stuff, So it's a really welcoming environment. So that's kind of a lot of the reason that we do have that bit of closeness. There's a lot of that within the club.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that about other clubs, and that exists everywhere, basically, and it's not just a once-off, for me. So I love hearing that.
Oh, yeah.
But, all right, back into it. So, what I know you hit on it a little bit earlier, but, just explain, kind of the circumstances of the events that fell around you starting your commentating career. But just before that, you were a judge and a referee before that, right?
Yeah, for like 6 years, yeah.
Okay. I guess start there. What drew you to do, judging and refereeing?
Oh, at the time I wasn't really, I had only been doing, jiu-jitsu for a few years. I was doing MMA a few years before that, and I got a really bad arm break, like a dislocated elbow, and I kind of couldn't even hit a bag for like 2 years. So I kind of just fell into the routine of just doing jiu-jitsu and competing in jiu-jitsu all the time. But I would rather watch MMA than jiu-jitsu. I'm more into the sport and the aesthetic of MMA. So yeah, I just said that there was a judging and reffing course coming up. It was on here, a small one in Ireland, and then Mark Goddard was doing one as well. So a few of us from Team Rhino, like my coach Andy and Paul Redmond and stuff, a handful of us went on and did that. And just basically decided, I'd like to be involved in it somehow. Yeah, that's a really cool thing to do, I think it's good to give back to the sport that you're involved in as well, but it was a nice experience just to get to go and, be at the fights every weekend, have a decent seat and see how it all works. So yeah, I was kind of doing that for a few years. And as I was saying earlier, Noel O'Keefe was generally the MC and the commentator on a lot of the shows alongside Phil Campbell. So I would be at all the shows working alongside these guys, so I'd know them pretty well. And then Noel, basically, life circumstances, announced he was taking a step back from it. And I had just done my first commentary gig at Chaos Grapple and realised, okay, I can do this. I'm actually okay at this. And, I loved it as well. So I was like, I'd really like to do it on MMA, but all the MMA shows have their commentators in place, whatever. But then, as circumstance would have it, Noel was taking a step back. So I just, I messaged him, I messaged Phil. They were like, yeah, go for it. Yeah, so I messaged a few promoters, and a few took a chance on me and just said, yeah, no problem, didn't even hesitate. So, because again, they would know me from being involved with the shows, which I put myself in the place to do it, being around the scene for a long time, which is very, very important. And yeah, just it snowballed, and here we are. I kind of I'm on a desk most weekends beside the cage talking about fights. So yeah, people are probably sick of my voice at this stage, but
Not a
still
chance.
going strong.
Who was the kind of the first promotion to kind of really, bring you in, show you love like that?
Two of them, Cage Legacy and Igor Decky McAleenan's promotion.
Okay.
So I got onto them and just said, look, I can do that. I can do both jobs. Pop me in. They're like, yeah, no hassle. Let's do it. Once I did those first two, then other promotions started just giving me a shout. And then, yeah, it's been interesting. Some good experiences come out of it, and hopefully a few more good ones to come along the way.
Heck yeah. So like, what is it about, kind of, I guess these, okay, so those two promotions were the ones that kind of, really kind of launched you into this, like, was there anything about, kind of either of them that, made you really enjoy it, or?
I was already working on a lot of pretty much all the Cage Legacy events as an official anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like it was easier. I think Deck said at the time they kind of didn't have anyone lined up when I contacted him.
Okay.
I think he said at the time they were going to maybe do like a competition or something, or something online to
try and get a
let's get a contest and get people to vote and get people to audition and vote. They were going to do something like that.
He's good for ideas like that.
Yeah, mad like. But he said that it's so much easier if you just fucking do it, because we know you, we know how to work with you.
Yeah.
And like I get people messaging me literally on a weekly basis. How do I get into doing that? It's just not that an easy thing to crack into.
It's not just like applying for a normal job.
Yeah, I didn't just walk into it because I happened to be there. I had put in 10 years of training on the mats, getting punched in the face, getting strangled. I know the game. Like, I understand the sport. I can speak about the sport, and I can watch it, and I can break down to the viewer what's happening. It's not just something that I do because it's cool.
100%. Your breakdowns that you do, like, I love watching them because they're very detailed, and it's clearly coming from, dare I say, an expert. And
what I do is I listen to my coaches, and I am blessed. I have the best coaches around me. The level of the guys I train with, I have to sit and look around on those mats sometimes and go, oh my God. And we just saw it at Cage Warriors 170, like two guys winning on the main card. I got one of them winning on Solomon winning on the feature preliminary bout, like impressive victories.
Yes.
And my coach is there, and he's doing this so fucking long. Like, I'm blessed. And I'm in that mix, and I'm learning off those guys, and I'm training alongside those guys every week, and I'm picking up ideas. I sat and I watched the main event cage side. The headset I basically have a thing where the producers can talk to me because I'm obviously working. I can switch the commentary on and off, but it only has one ear. So on the other ear, I've got Collie Mahon sitting beside me, who I train striking with, one of the best striking coaches in the game.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, these are the people I'm learning off. And me and Collie are just sitting there, and he's explaining to me, well, this is what he needs to do now. And I'm obsessed with those kind of details.
Okay.
I fucking listen. You know what I mean? I don't just turn up and train hard. I turn up and I watch and I learn and I listen. So it's about just, soaking up that knowledge. And now I'm in a position where, oh shit, now all that stuff that I've learned, I can actually use that. So yeah, I've been blessed over the years. It hasn't happened by accident. And a lot of people are contacting me, as I was trying to say, they're contacting me, but they might only be around the game a year or two. I'm like, I don't think it's going to be that easy for you to just walk into a job along this lines. It's, I served a long, long time, like 15 years to become an overnight success at something.
Exactly. I love that saying.
Yeah, and I'm only just doing this a wet week, and I'm still sort of just trying to get the hang of how to commentate, how to do it right. I sit beside Phil Campbell on the desk sometimes, and he's just so good. And I learned so much from working with him. I've commentated alongside a lot of really good people, and I learned things from each of them. So I'm only just starting to learn it at the moment. But yeah, it's definitely not an expert, but I would say I'm certainly someone who has been in a position to soak up a lot of knowledge. So it's nice to have that now and be able to put it to good use.
Yeah, that's 100%, man. Like that. I think it's understated how, kind of the people that you work and train around, how much of an effect they have on your, what am I trying to say? Like, your skills, like you learn a lot through kind of osmosis, like, absorbing, from other people and what they're saying. And, they don't necessarily have to be, teaching or instructing you directly, but just to be a sponge and kind of soak up all that information is really good. And you know, a lot of people, myself even, you know, have a hard time doing that. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. You know, so speaking of, you know, like how do you stay so updated? You know, because there's two people, if I ever have a question about a fighter or an event coming up, two people come to mind. Yourself and Dave Farrell.
Oh yeah, Dave.
How do you stay up to date on everything, be it the events, you know, or if you're commentating, you know, the fighters, like, because there's times where like you pulled out facts that, like, how does he know that?
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. It's you know what? That's something I learned off Phil Campbell. The first show I commentated on, Cage Legacy, I was sitting beside him and I had some notes. You know, I prepared some notes on all of the fighters, and I sat and I looked at my notes. I was like, right, I'm ready. And I looked to my left and I saw his notebook. I was like, oh fuck, he's got everything that these fighters have ever done, and you know, everything about them is in his notebook. So I was like, right, just have it, and you know, you may not need it, but yeah, you'd certainly sit down and do your preparation work before a show. So you'll go through a fighter's record. You'll have the record. You know, who they've beaten, who they've lost to. You'll look for little things like, you know, maybe he's been caught in a guillotine 3 or 4 times. You know, maybe he's lost. You know, he's on a 3-fight skid or 3-fight winning streak. Whatever it is, you have to. It's interesting to have these. Or, you know, they've both fought. You know, fighter A and fighter B have both fought against this guy. They have a common opponent. So you got to look for little things like that might just be of some significance in a fight, you know what I mean? Or this guy has never been past the first round, or, you know, if the fight goes the distance, he's good at eking out decisions, but sometimes he can get finished. It's good to explain the story of the fight to the people that are watching. I'm always conscious that at the level I commentate at, a lot of people watching will be friends and family of the fighters.
Yeah.
So you've got to strike the right balance. You'll have teammates and friends who train with them for watching, and you'll have friends and family who don't really know the sport at all. You really have to kind of strike the right balance of both of those. You know, you can't go too technical, but at the same time, you do need to explain to people, well, this is why he's getting caught with the jab. Or, you know, this is what he's trying to set up here. And it's a really cool moment when you're commentating and you explain to the viewer, like, he's trying to do this, or you know, this is the danger here, he's at risk of this, and it actually happens then, you know. So that's always nice and rewarding when that happens. But yeah, it's just basically putting in the work. The sitting down and actually commentating on the fights is about 10% of the work you do for that show.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of preparation that goes in. So you know, if you ever try to hire me and you give out to me for charging you too much, it's not the fucking 4 hours at cage side that you're paying me for. It's the week before that you're paying me for. So it's it's about staying up to date. And Dave Farrell's a great guy like that as well. Yeah. He knows, he spends so much of his time for, you know, just for the love of the game, providing a platform to the amateur fighters in the country, and it's really commendable, you know.
Absolutely. So you got to be able to. So when you are commentating on a fight, like you got to kind of have a balance. You can't be too one-sided on one fighter, you know, versus another. Have you ever had like kind of any? Excuse me. Have you ever had any like kind of like criticism, you know, about, you know, saying like, hey, like, you know, you're you know, focusing too much on this guy, or, you know, being too positive with this guy, and, you know, you're not saying anything about, you know, this guy, or
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like, I've had a few conversations with fighters. I've been lucky in that no one's actually really had anything too negative to say. I'm very lucky that fighters reach out to me and they talk to me about their fights.
Okay.
You know, I've had a couple of fighters reach out to me about things I've said, like constructive criticism on the commentary stream about their fight or their performance, and they'll reach out to me and go, you know, you were right there. Like, that's I do need to do that, or I do need to change this about my game. So
that's good. Yeah.
It's really that really made me kind of or pleased me, because it's nice that people aren't just getting fucking offended. They realize that I'm not there to break anyone down or to really big anyone up, really. But it's more about just calling it as you see it. Sometimes you've got friends in there. It can be difficult to kind of stay on the track down the
100%.
middle. But I do try my best to kind of do that, you know. Obviously, if you've got friends or teammates in there, it's a real challenge. But no, I've been lucky in that the response that I've had from fighters is been brilliant. I've had some really interesting conversations with fighters just about the nuance of the performance, and they'll go, yeah, well, they'll explain to me what was their thought process during the fight, and we'll have a really good chat back and forward about it. So, and I learn a lot from things like that as well.
Yeah.
And then, the next time they're fighting, it's something that I can be aware of. And I remember it was Ross Querney had one fight, and he was explaining to me, it was in the Premier cage, the big cage.
Yeah.
And he was explaining to me after the fight, he was, you were saying something like on the commentary stream that I was maybe hesitant to engage, or I waited a little bit. I think he lost the first 2 rounds and won the third or something like that. And he was saying, you know what, you were right, and here's why. It was because the cage was so big that I always had space behind me, so I was free to move around as much as I wanted, and it gave me a comfort zone that I didn't have to bite down on the gum shield and step in and really engage. And then, until then, I was 2 rounds down and I kind of had to. So yeah, that was a really interesting one. So I've had fighters like that reach out to me. But as I said, thankfully, I haven't had anyone reach out to me and rip into me. So, so far. Be nice if you do. If you just give me a shout if you want to have a chat. Please don't tear me a new one. I'm doing my best.
You're doing a great job. It's got to be difficult too, because you got to kind of, like you said, sometimes you're commentating on, your teammates or friends, and it's got to be difficult to, maybe not difficult, it's challenging to kind of to strike that, unbiased position, behind the microphone, especially if you're representing, like a brand like Brave or Cade Legacy, or how do you, Your, yeah. I can never say that right.
I'm pretty sure that's right. I'll have to double check it with Deck. I've been commentating for like 8 events with them. I better make sure I'm saying it right.
But yeah, to have that balance is it's just another skill, and like I said, I always enjoy watching you. So, do you save like the whatever data that you collect? Yeah, like an encyclopedia,
books of notes at home. Yeah. Every show I've commentated on, I have a list of this show, this fight is on. Here's 5 bullet points about fighter A, 5 bullet points about fighter B, and then when they're fighting on a show again, like if they're fighting next week, I'll go back and I'll look at the record and go, okay, they were on that show, and I'll look to see what I already have. He's really good switching stances, he's got good inside low kicks, and I'll just transfer that into the notes for the upcoming one, and then add in whatever I can find from their most recent fight. So I'll generally know a fighter then quite well, or know what they're looking for a lot of the time once I've commentated on the handful of times. So
how's your kind of your recall? Are you able to?
Oh shit! Yeah, I need it written down in front of me.
Okay.
Fighters will come up to me and they'll talk to me, and I'll be like, "Who is this guy?" So he commentated on like 6 of my fights, and like, I don't recognize you wearing a t-shirt in this setting. I just
civilian.
And then
clothes.
you say my name, and I go, "Oh yeah, you've got a really good jab."
Yeah. Okay.
So it's weird. Like my brain is weird like that. I just there's so many fights but I definitely do need to have my notes in front of me just to remind me a lot of the time.
Excellent. So there's certainly like there can be a lot of pressure on commentating, especially if it's say it's someone's debut, or be it their professional or even amateur, or maybe it's a title fight or something like that. There's got to be a lot of pressure to present well for the, or what I'm trying to say, like to give a good commentary, and then even to present them in the cage. How do you kind of manage the the pressure that you may or may not feel doing that?
Yeah, I have to say, I generally don't feel like nerves or pressure in those situations. I'm sort of so engrossed in the job or in the work that I don't.
Well, you've
feel
been a performer, for a long time. Like you said, you used to perform in Germany and stuff like that.
I think
so
that's
definitely got to help. Stand in front of the cage, or just even people listening to you, on the microphone on the live stream or something like that. That's certainly got to help.
Yeah.
So then, okay.
Yeah, I feel at home in that situation and that environment, and preparation is key. Once you're prepared, you're good. But like if you turn up unprepared, that's when anxiety is going to be. It's going to come back and bite you in the ass. So you got to be ready. You got to just have your due diligence done, and make sure that you have everything lined up and good to go, and you can just trust your preparation. Same as competing.
Yeah.
If you just make sure that you have everything prepared properly, you're good.
What about, and I know this probably doesn't happen on the larger cards or the the bigger promotions, but last minute fight change. You know,
Yeah,
how do you
happens.
what do you do that?
Yeah, look, if someone's get thrown into that cage and it's happened maybe at the very, very last moment, you weren't informed of it and you don't have any notes on the person at all, it's not an issue. You can just basically explain the situation and then start explaining what you're seeing in front of you. You can,
Okay.
you can. The best thing is not to panic.
Yeah.
It happens that way. Like sometimes you're like, oh, this has been changed to a K1 bout because this guy's medicals didn't come in. So a lot of the stuff from the MMA notes that you've got, they're probably not relevant. So yeah, you can just relax into it and explain what you're seeing. And you're there with co-commentators as well, usually some good, knowledgeable co-commentators. You can absolutely just have good conversation with those people. Like we had some time to kill there on the last Cage Legacy between, I think it was just before the co-main event, and we kind of did a 10 or 15 minute mini podcast between the three of us on the desk. They stuck a camera on us and we just filled some airtime because there was a lot of first round finishes on that main card. So
Yes.
yeah, like myself and Phil in particular have done so many shows. You could just sit us there and we could talk for an hour about the card, about the fights, and just it's just about staying calm and relaxed and trusting your preparations.
Right on. Is there a particular moment that through all your commentating that kind of sticks out to you? Do you have like a favorite finish or just something that was
Oh, there's been some cool ones. One of the best fights was the Gary Rooney Jamie Abbott Bissett one a couple of years ago at Cage Legacy. And Gary had Jamie in that Kimura, and like I actually lost the power to speak because, like I was explaining earlier, he's one of ours, and seeing his arm getting folded like that, I thought it was about to snap, and my brain just stopped working. It just froze a little bit, and Phil had to carry me there for about 10 seconds. But that was an insane fight, just a really good atmosphere, and two really good guys. They're both mates of mine, so it was tough to watch, but it was also such an amazing performance from both of them that it was a brilliant occasion. The Tarico Plata from Jake Nye a couple of years ago, that was awesome. I just love seeing some different, unique stuff in the cage, and that was spectacular. Shout out to Caleb Leach, who got one at the IMAFs there a couple of months ago as well. So
those commentators didn't know what that was.
The poor guy was so confused. The commentator, it was like he was trying to swim and didn't know how to. He was lost, and he was like,
what was he calling it? Like a reverse inverted Kimura or something.
He was just lost. So that was a really, really cool.
He was describing what he saw. And
God bless him. But it was a magic moment, and I suppose that one, the fact that it was like all over the internet. Then a couple of days later, I turned on my Twitter. I was like, oh right, 400 notifications. Something's going down. But it was fun. I suppose they're the standout moments. Although there's been so many, it'd be difficult. I could sit here making a list. We might be here all night.
Right on. All right. Last question here for you. If you could pick kind of your dream fight to commentate on, what would it be? Ooh. And then who would it be for? So like what promotion would you be on?
I suppose if we're going full Fantasy Island here, we might go a UFC fight.
Yeah.
Charles Oliveira.
Ooh, okay.
And Max Holloway.
Yeah?
Yeah. Two of my favourite fighters. I would, I think that one would be bananas. I think Max would win, but I don't know. Would it be my favorite fight to commentate on, or would I not be able to watch it? Because like, I love watching both fighters, so it'd be difficult to see one of them lose. But,
who would you want sitting next to you?
John Anik.
Yeah,
me and John Anik, that'd be class. John Anik's he's head and shoulders above the rest of the guys.
He's cool. I like that guy. He's always he's always got a good he's always got a good
he steers the ship
quip.
Well.
He's able to kind of come up with some like really good short descriptions that are like to the point.
He's so slick, and
100%.
really, really good. Jesus Christ, can you imagine sitting beside John Anik doing commentary? That would be so good. He's because some of the co-commentators they stick him alongside are questionable at best, and that's the thing with the fight game is they'll just throw a fighter there because of their name and their persona, but they might not be any good at the actual job. But sometimes that doesn't matter, and I won't name names on the UFC broadcast, but there's quite a few there. It's painful to listen to, but Anik does such a good job of just sort of navigating the madness. He sort of quarterbacks the whole job. You know, he's brilliant. Like, so
He does most, if not all, the shows, doesn't he?
does, yeah. Brendan Fitzgerald does quite a few as well, and you can see the drop off in quality is poor. I mean, even outside the UFC, there's some sensational commentators. Brad Wharton, Cage Warriors play-by-play guy, is, I think, just as good as anybody there is in the world. He's brilliant, you know. And if you talk to Brad, he just knows the game inside out. You ask him like a question about a Pride card back, 22 years ago, and he'll be able to give you some details on that.
Has
card,
that recall?
Yeah, he's just unbelievable. Top guy, really good guy, and like he's on the Cage Warriors broadcast there with Dan Strauss and Redzer, and it's brilliant. And then you've got Dan Hardy who's doing a lot of the PFL stuff. Dan was one of the best ones.
I like Dan. I like listening to him as well. He's got a good voice as well.
Yeah,
I like listening to him.
Yeah, and just a real brilliant, deep-rooted understanding of the sport. Like, you learn so much just from listening to him speak. It's just class, He's a fountain of knowledge. Yeah, but Anik is sitting at the top of the pile there. He navigates the chaos of some of the UFC pay-per-views with DC and Rogan. Those guys can just get a little bit too wild, and it's like they're just sitting there in a bar watching the fights. They just they go off on tangents a little bit, but Anik does a great job of kind of keeping the ship steering straight, and I think he's brilliant. But you imagine sitting there kind of just watching a fight with him, and it was Charles Oliveira and Max Holloway. That would be just fucking brilliant. Yeah, awesome.
That would be awesome. That playing it in my head. That'd be pretty sweet. Look, man, I appreciate your time. I love talking to you, and I love getting to know a bit more about you. That's my goal with this, is to get to know the person, the human side of combat sports, really. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to talk about, fighters, their next big fight, or, training camp and all that. But, like, I'm most interested in, like I said, the human side, just what gets people thinking, or what makes people want to do this, hit in the face on a regular basis, that type of stuff. And, so like I said, I appreciate your time.
No problem.
It was awesome talking to you. And, maybe again, hopefully soon we can do something else.
Yes.
Do something else together again.
Let's do it.
Okay, man. All right, man.
Nice.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.